Hey, I'm here. How are you? Was I late? Yes. Do I feel bad about it? I don't know. I'm just happy to be here tonight. Man, we had a long break, and I'm not exactly sure why, other than I was tired. I mean, I was doing a podcast, 2 live streams a day, doing the regular real estate business. It was getting a little bit much. No time for myself. So this weekend I took the whole weekend off, Friday through Sunday. And is the algorithm going to punish me for not providing content to the machine? Probably. Do I care? No, not that much. You know, some of the stuff I do for fun. I know it's kind of weird, but I like looking into this employment fun. It's just such a vast space, because it ranges from the lowest of the lowest paid workers to the most well paid workers in our society. It deals with issues of who you are as a person. When someone says, when you introduce yourself, my name is John, I'm a real estate agent. Well, that automatically gives you some idea of who I am. Other people might introduce themselves as they say they work for Monsanto, or they work for, or they did work for Bayer, or they work for Boeing, or they work for Anheuser-Busch. And that sort of meant something. I work for a bank. Okay. Your employment fits into your identity. Now, the funny thing is you can work for a bank and be a janitor. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. But even as far back as when, I don't know if, I'm in my mid 40s now, but I don't know if you remember game shows. We used to watch game shows all the time. Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune. And they'd say, so introduce yourselves. They'd have the contestants on, and they'd say, I work for a regional steel manufacturer. You'd never say who you worked for. I work for a carbonated beverage corporation. And it was always funny to me, because it's like, could we guess what the person, what their job is? So I just wanted to check my audio. I haven't had a chance to, but anyway, let's just double check. Yeah, so we're fine. Anyway, so there's this, I think, real truth that your employment defines you. One of the funny things with me is I say I'm a real estate agent to some people, and I tell other people I'm a real estate broker. Well, most people don't know the difference. A real estate agent is out there in the field making deals. A real estate broker should be, if they're any good, they should be recruiting other agents to come join them in their organization. Now, I don't. I used the real estate broker to run my own agency, essentially, and not be bothered or encumbered by some sort of weird levels of management to tell me that I can't do things. Like, as long as I'm within the law, and as long as I'm within the statutes and my Missouri licensure, I feel like I don't really want to be bothered by somebody telling me that the real estate market is hot for sellers. Like I can't figure that out on my own. And just the whole, the whole ridiculousness that is the real estate broker, the recruiter, just not for me. So, that's a little bit about the way I look at employment, and where we've been having success in this live stream is we've been having success with, these corporations are huge, and I'm running into a problem where I don't like, if somebody's alleged to have done something, or even if someone is charged in a corporation, I hate to paint the whole organization with the brush of, failure, or the brush of misdeeds. So, like if someone if I put it's fascinating. If I put like Starbucks in the description, and then I talk about Starbucks, I can get more views about that than if I say like some corporation had some issues, or some corporation is fighting to unionize, or fighting off unionization. It's very very obvious to me how big brands are in search. Yeah, I mean, think about another coffee company in the United States other than Starbucks. It's hard. Most of you probably default to like a local place. So anyway, so we've kind of got some things built in for success if we get this thing off the ground. It's not like real estate. I mean, what do you think? What do you think of the big brands of real estate? If I put Keller Williams in my description, do you think that would get me anywhere? Compass, eXp Realty. I mean, those are big brands in the real estate world. And similarly, like you got Starbucks. I don't even know. I believe Walmart is the largest employer in the United States. So if I can put Walmart in my description, I'm probably going to get some traction just because I said Walmart. It's very, very odd. If you think about it, you can do anything from Walmart has the best coupons to Walmart's a horrible corporation because the people that work there, many of them start off having to use or needing to use government assistance. So you can go either way, but as long as you got Walmart in the search, you get a better ranking, better chance of getting viewers, which is odd. I don't know that that's a good thing, but we're going to use it to our advantage, I guess. I mean, it's there. We figured it out. And now you know about it too. So, we got some stories tonight, all different, all across the board. I haven't really found a way to put things in these categories. So like, it's hard for me to say, well, is this a company ethics problem? Is this an employee problem? How do we categorize everything? I don't know. And until somebody comes and hangs out with me, I really don't know how we're going to do it either. I'm going to continue to do this though, because I love it. I can't tell you how much I know that YouTube censors, and I know that everybody censors, but just to have the opportunity to have the distribution to be able to talk about these issues amongst people among the world. I mean, where else could you have gotten that 30 years ago? So let's get into it today. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to click some buttons, and we're going to go here. And what I wanted you to see is this story here. I just want to make sure it's in order. I thought this was interesting, and I thought it would. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about. So this is from Bloomberg. It was published last month. It says, "Being single and smart is bad for young women's careers," study finds. Now, I feel like I'm sensitive to young women's careers, and that I have 2 girls at the house, and I hope that they never have to face any sort of sexism, never have to face any sort of harassment, none of that. I want them to be able to be employed based on their abilities and nothing else. So would I have been the same way when I was in my 20s? Yeah, believe it or not, when I was going to college, we had a big discussion about women's rights and that kind of stuff. That was very big on the list, which is why it was so strange to me to see the Me Too movement and all these things come out. Because, I mean, I can remember 20 years ago, you never have, like, if you're a male, you never have an office door closed with a meeting with. I mean, you just don't do it. Do I think it's right? No, I wish it would be different than that, but it's not. I think it's unfortunate. But look, because it is unfortunate, because it happens, doesn't mean there's anything I can do about it. I don't want to be accused of anything myself, and so, this is what happens. So let's just get into it. It says social scientists and women themselves have long known that working mothers face a myriad of disadvantages in their careers, even in non-pandemic times. Now they're finding out that their single, analytically minded counterparts are more likely to be considered unfit for leadership positions at their jobs than male or female married coworkers or single men. So in the hierarchy, I forgot the word that I'm looking for, but in the hierarchy, the grievance hierarchy, I suspect it goes single male, married male, married female, single female. Okay. I'm guessing based on what I'm reading. It says researchers at George Washington University and the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School conducted studies examining perceptions of single people. In one, they asked 300 respondents about a fictional woman named Anne and a fictional man named Tim. Those who were told that Anne enjoyed traveling with her friends were less likely to recommend her for a significant promotion into a leadership position at work than those who were told that Anne enjoyed traveling with her husband and children. There wasn't such a difference for respondents who were told that Tim enjoyed traveling with his friends compared to those who were told he enjoyed traveling with his wife and children. So the idea is that if it's a fake person and you said, should this person be promoted? One of them likes to travel. Both of them like to travel. One likes to travel with their husband and children, and then one doesn't, that there was some difference on the female side. Now, it says the second study looked at the real careers of 600 people with MBAs, young single women who scored well on their entrance exams and displayed analytical talent experienced more career setbacks than married and single men, married women, and single women who did not display skills perceived as masculine. The researchers found that both men and women appraised the single women with a similar lens. Now, I don't know what this means. Like I'm gonna read it again because it's 9:12 on a Tuesday night, and I'm not sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So let me try it again. It says, young single women who scored well on their entrance exams and displays analytical talent experienced more career setbacks than married and single men, married women, and single women who did not display skills perceived as masculine. So I don't know what those skills are that are perceived as masculine from women. That's a tough one in this day and age. It says the researchers found that both men and women appraised the single women with a similar lens. To see it just come out that both men and women were doing this, it wasn't just that men were analyzing women and penalizing them. Everyone was doing it. That was surprising and not surprising at the same time, says Jennifer Maluzzi, an associate professor of strategic management and public policy at the George Washington University and one of the authors of the research. Now, I've always thought that women in the workforce, this is me, have a tendency to tear each other down, married or not. I think it's really bad. I've witnessed it, and this would not be a surprise to me as far as, like, would you prefer that women stick up for women and men stick up for men? I would prefer a situation where we look to the best candidates, regardless of their sex, and we move on. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with looking up to people that are very good at things. Like, I don't care if they're women or men. That's just me. But, across the border, there are people that believe other. I guess so. It says, she said reviewers were upset to see the results of her research. We got back reviews like, I don't see anything wrong with your study, but it's just depressing. And says, of course, the effects of gender in the workplace are complicated. They are, very much so. And also the effects of gender in life in general in our 2022 time is just, out of control, crazy, complicated. And women with children face plenty of hurdles when it comes to their careers, the authors note. I don't know if they listed the hurdles, but whatever. I don't understand. They weren't testing that. It doesn't seem. But anyway, those stressors have been exacerbated during the pandemic as women were pushed out of the job market at higher rates than their male counterparts. I don't even know about this. This is fascinating. A lack of external child care supports and outsized expectations to provide that care to children also contributed to keeping women out of the workforce. Women were more likely to report leaving the workforce between March 2020 and September 2021 than their male counterparts, as well as leaving school or needing to care for others. That's just fascinating. I mean, I don't know that, like, can you have numbers that may be true, but the reasons behind them may not be? Because in this case, I really feel like there could be some other things going on. Sorry, I just wanted to check the chat tonight, see what's going on. Nobody, which is fine. It's sad, but whatever. But while married women may be at a disadvantage for having commitments outside of their job, single analytical women were specifically punished for not being perceived as having people skills. You're being penalized early on because you don't fit this communal image of a woman and you're not a man, and then later you're penalized because you have these other commitment pieces. Well, that's interesting. So I suspect, as going back into this study, when it says single analytical women were specifically punished for not being perceived as having people skills, I suspect that's also considered a masculine skill or trait. Young women go out there and work really hard thinking, I'm going to put in a lot of hours, she said. That's the thing that's actually sort of backlashing against them in this young single phase. In other words, they're damned if they do, damned if you don't. Now, that phrase, damned if you do, damned if you don't, for young employees or employees in general, has been the reason why I wanted to do this live stream or these series of live streams. I feel like employment at this time is absurd in the United States. It makes no sense. People can work very, very hard and make very, very little. People can work very, very little and make a lot. It just depends on your skills to navigate the corporate landscape. Fascinating to me. And so this article, it says, if you're young and single and a woman with great analytical skills, you might be being held back by your own traits, which is like, it's not good because you can't change them. So anyway, that's article number 1. Let's get into a different article. It says, this one's from Forbes. It says the kindness factor, why sensitive leaders get better results. Now, I've always been kind of suspect with these beliefs, because we want them to be true. For instance, we want to believe our boss is an upstanding citizen, that they should be held in high regard. We don't want to believe that our boss is the most unethical, vicious, ladder climbing person in the organization and is willing to step over anyone's neck or step on anyone's throat to get to where they want to go. Right? We want to believe that they're nice people. My view or my experience with entrepreneurship in St. Louis, the more successful people that I've met have been some of the most vicious, psychopathic people I've ever met anywhere. So am I? I don't think so. I think I started my business because I didn't want to be a part of that psychosis. I didn't want to do it. So let's continue. Now, this could be like based on what it says Odell Mitchell is an organizational effectiveness consultant and the founder of 3 Kindnesses. So this could be a guest post. It is so often stated, it is almost a cliche, people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. I've heard that. This is being confirmed over and over again in the pandemic era, as many aren't in the office but are still interacting daily with managers. In the time of the Great Resignation, we were watching people choose between reporting to toxic managers and finding a better work culture that doesn't leave them feeling stressed, devalued, and disrespected. And now, as I've said, I think that the live stream should highlight those that are feeling, highlight the culture that is feeling stressed, devalued, and disrespected. I think that goes along with the absurdity that I believe I see. It says, call it leaving managers or exiting toxic workplaces. The truth is that people leave their jobs either because they don't feel safe or they don't feel respected within the team environment or the company culture. And that comes down to how bosses boss and how managers manage. Managers test every aspect of corporate culture, and their sensitivity to their people or lack thereof has far-reaching effects. Now, people leave their jobs because they don't feel safe or don't feel respected within the team environment or the company culture. I think that if someone paid you enough, you would stay. And by pay, I mean maybe they're nice to you, but mostly like hourly or salary or benefits. Because this is to me a truth. Your horrible boss isn't going to be there forever. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's like, I feel like the window for employment for any organization for just a general person is like 5 years, maybe, and you're gone. It's one of the problems I have is this: we don't seem to acknowledge that people don't stay at jobs for long periods of time anymore. And you may say to me, John, produce the data that shows that this is true. I can't. I'm really not good at data. This is just my belief. You may have data that counters my belief. However, I'm probably going to reject it because I feel like I've seen it with my own eyes, and that's where I'm going to go. So, anyway, as we continue building a culture of respect, let me check the chat just to make sure we're not causing issues. A recent study about organizational culture found some surprising results. It says topics that you might expect to matter, such as friendly colleagues, flexible schedules, and manageable workloads, were commonly discussed, but it had little or no impact on a company's overall culture score. It turns out that the factor employees found most important to building a good workplace culture, nearly twice as important as the next most important factor was feeling respected. And the next three elements were all related to the behavior of managers and the leaders and their impact on the workplace culture. Now, it's fascinating to me. How does one feel respect? How do you show respect within the workforce? And let me just point out to something that I saw on Facebook the other day that it was a post by one of my a Facebook friend. Let's just be honest. So not a real friend, but it said your job isn't to make friends at work. Your job is just to get your job done and go home. Okay. So let's assume that person that believes that is at the job. And then you have another person that works right next to them that has empathy or empathy traits. And they want to know about this employee that is quiet and doesn't want to talk about their life or talk about anything other than doing the job. Now, is the employee who has empathy going to feel disrespected by the employee who doesn't say a word? I suspect so. So, very fascinating issue here of in my opinion, there's many different ways you can feel disrespected at the office. I've learned, the brilliant Dr. Maya Angelou once said, that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. This is perhaps never more true than in a manager-employee relationship. Gallup polled more than 25 million employees and compiled decades of exit interview data, and this one factor never changed. People leave bad managers. Do you want to keep good talent? Then you must hire and train good managers. I don't know what that means. What do I mean by good managers? It's about kindness and sensitivity. So this man, I believe, his core belief is that you have to be kindness and sensitive as a manager. Now, to me, I don't know what I know what my management style is. I was going to say, I don't know what it is, but I know what it is. And it's not odd, but it works a certain way. And that is, I will give you everything I have, my time, my empathy, my respect. I will give you my respect. But at a certain point, if we keep going down this path and you're not getting anything done, or you're having just problems really not related to work, well, I mean, problems on your own that are being reflected in your work, then I typically get tired of it at some point. Does that make me unique? Are there people out there that just put up with terrible behavior? Maybe. Let's continue. A sensitive leader respects your time. There's a tip going around in coaching circles about how to get your manager to respect your time and your workload. When assigned yet another thing to do on top of a heavy workload, people are coached to ask their bosses, could you help me prioritize my workload? This ostensibly forces the manager to recognize how much work someone is already doing and encourages them to either assign the work to someone else or take some other task off the plate as of the overloaded employee. As you know, I work and work and work and work. So I have a difficult time with the concept of my employee asking me, could you help me prioritize my workload? It's like, yeah, like that's part of your job. Like, you need to figure it out. What do you think is the most important? So that's not sensitive. Whether or not this works, it draws attention to what a sensitive leader should already be doing, paying attention to how people are spending their time and energy and working to ensure equity of work, recognition, and respect throughout the team. I just don't see that. Equity of work. Because what I typically see is someone that's not carrying their weight normally is the issue. It's the one that's not doing the good job that we have to pay attention to. Other people on the team are doing great. If your people feel overloaded, devalued, and unseen to the point where they have to force the issues with you in this way, it's likely they will not remain your people on your team much longer. And I would say if that's what they choose to do, okay, here we go. A sensitive leader creates healthy boundaries. I think healthy boundaries are good. Let's see what their definition is with my definition. It says, many years ago, in the middle of an emotionally fraught team meeting, I watched a manager fairly new to his role thump his chest and proudly proclaim, I will never ask anyone on my team to do anything I'm not willing to do myself. Interesting. There was a brief silence, and then a team member quietly spoke up. All that means to me is that you won't stand up for this team when bad policies arise. What you're saying is that you're willing to do anything your managers tell you to do, and you expect the same from us. And this is why I don't trust you to keep any of us safe. Well, that seems like a disgruntled employee. Maybe I messed it up. I will never ask anyone on my team to do anything I'm not willing to do myself. Well, look, this is just me and just me thinking, of course, and I've got the space to do so. I've got the venue. Now, what if, this is something that happens in my house. I have about, I'd say, 10 years of construction expertise and experience, residential. And my wife, to my knowledge, has never, ever worked as a construction worker in her life. But she oftentimes lectures me on how I'm supposed to do things around the house with regard to repairs. And as a good husband, I will listen to these things, and I will give her thoughts more weight than I otherwise would have with someone that has not ever done this particular task. So in that sense, I don't particularly like what's going on, but as a manager, if I said I will not do something, I will never ask anyone on my team to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. In this case, my wife telling me how to do something that she has no idea what I'm doing and freely speaks, I guess that makes me a good leader that's creating healthy boundaries. Now, there is an element to this that is positive. See, that's where I'm having issues, is because, for instance, let's say I'm an employee and I'm working on some software. Okay. And my manager hasn't been working on this particular type of software in many years and is not aware of the pitfalls, the newer pitfalls, or the newer ways to get the software written, new techniques. And so, if I go to my manager and I say, look, this particular space here doesn't seem to be working, and my manager has no idea what the hell I'm doing anyway, what does that do? It seems like it's not in the manager's best interest to learn these new techniques because he's supposed to be managing, or she. So it's a very fascinating thing. I don't agree with this person. And as far as I don't trust you to keep any of us safe. Now, what are we talking about in this safety? Are we talking about loss of employment? Are we talking about injury at the workforce? What are we talking about? So let's continue. It says, to respect and care for your people, you have to let them know that you are willing to do whatever it takes to protect the team and keep them safe. This means creating healthy boundaries and being sensitive to the needs of your team, even to the point of pushing back on your own leadership sometimes. I'm uncomfortable with the idea that you are willing to do whatever it takes to protect the team and keep them safe. What if the team members are doing things that are clearly illegal? What if team members are doing things that are not according to the best practices of the business from which they're working? I would not want my manager to shield those who would commit harm or wrongdoing. Very fascinating. See how far off I am from managerial dogma at this point in time. A sensitive leader excels at perspective taking. Frequently in my work coaching leaders, I have to remind them that empathy is a choice they can make. In fact, it's a choice they need to make if they want the results they're striving toward. Even if they cannot summon a direct emotional connection to an employee, they can engage sensitively. I've never used that word. Through something called perspective taking, a form of cognitive empathy that allows them to see other people, another perspective, and actively engage with that person around it. In my experience, this never fails to open up a communication channels, or, I screwed up. I put an A there, but it's not there. You can read it. It's on the screen. And create methods for seeking important information on both sides of an issue or problem. It is also a powerful tool for seeing and respecting different styles, wiring, and communication methods. It's estimated that almost half of workplace conflicts occur because of personality clashes. Perspective taking gives leaders a chance to slow down, engage in deliberate kindness, and honor the needs, speeds, and creeds of their people. Well, that rhymes. But is that true? Almost half of workplace conflicts occur because of personality clashes. Now, to me, if you don't get along with someone, that's probably a workplace conflict. Because you don't like the person. That's a personality clash. I mean, this is fascinating. Is it even possible to get a group of people together? I mean, I don't know. Final thoughts, it says, most people aren't at work because it's how they choose to spend their time. Most people are at work to work. I don't know about that. I think that's part of the reason for this live stream. I think there's a certain level of absurdity in the workplace. So if employees have to be in an environment that is out of their control and often requires sacrifice, brain power, and deep expertise, they at least want to be respected for what they can bring to the table. And the number one way a manager can show that respect is through kindness and sensitivity to other people. Well, I mean, that's what he thinks. I don't know. I'm confused by that. Let's move on. It says the state of work in 2022, 5 new truths every manager should know. Now it says it's sponsored content by WorkHuman. I'm not familiar with Quartz. I'm not familiar with any of this, but the state of work in 2022, 5 truths every manager should know. Well, I'm a manager. Do I know these truths? Let's find out. It says, if you picture the quintessential full-time remote worker, who are you imagining? We're willing to bet that the hypothetical person looks more like a Generation Z man grinding away at a startup than a Generation X woman employed by a major bank. But you'd be wrong. Even though WFH, work from home, is becoming increasingly common, many company leaders are relying on outdated stereotypes about remote work, and that's a problem. Because even though virtual commuting has plenty of benefits, it also has its downsides, like that burnout the World Health Organization just warned about. And with the remote revolution coming for industries you may never have expected, managers need a clear understanding of who's Zooming, what they're struggling with, and how employers can better accommodate them. So I agree kind of with that. So sit back, turn off your laptop camera, and let us debunk 5 misconceptions about remote work based off WorkHuman's new survey of more than 2,000 full-time employees, the state of human connection at work. All right, let's get into it. It says, number 1, traditionally, myth, in-person industries, retail, healthcare, manufacturing, and construction aren't affected by the remote work trend. If you had asked us in 2019 whether someone as hands-on as elementary school education could ever be moved online, we probably would have said absolutely not. But the global pandemic sure changed our thinking about that. Now, I think that's stupid. That's your problem. They have high-quality online degrees for college students now. They've had it for years. My last executive master's degree that I earned was, I'd say, 90% online with the University of Denver, which is no slouch of an institution. So anyway, in fact, 37% of education workers and 28% of manufacturing workers say that COVID made their work environments more work from home friendly. Many workers, especially parents, love certain aspects of this shift, but they're also feeling burnt out and stressed by it. It says most industries have at least 25% of employees working either hybrid or remote. I mean, I don't particularly enjoy this graph, but whatever. It says some tasks have to be completed on site, like assembling a car. But many others, from HR to accounting to logistics, can be achieved anywhere as long as a business leader set clear expectations and maintain strong connection between employees. It says only 6 in 10 workers know what's expected of them, and it's worse in hybrid and remote situations, says Adam Hickman, who is a senior workplace strategist at Gallup. I don't even understand. I don't know what he would do, or yeah, it's definitely he. The forced work from home situation has caused bad managers to get worse, highlighting their deficiencies. Well, I don't know that has anything to do with the 6 in 10 workers that know what's expected of them. I mean, shouldn't there be like general expectations for going to work every day? Like, I think one of the biggest, during my time out and not in my organization, one of the biggest ones for me was this concept of being present. Okay, if you're out the night before and you're drinking until 4 a.m. and you roll into work the next morning at 7, and you smell like a liquor cabinet, but I don't feel like that. I don't feel like you're giving the employer a good time. Like, you're not giving them your best. And then the argument becomes, well, John, they're not paying me to be my best. And it's like, well, shouldn't you bring your best at all times? And then maybe people think no. So Anyway, this idea that only 6 in 10 workers know what's expected of them, I feel like a lot of people just never get it, and they don't need to, for whatever reason. Regardless of your sector, employee feedback should be continuous, from one-to-one check-ins to team recognition moments to project reviews, and ideally culminate in a 360-degree feedback session that considers input from your own point of view, their managers, their collaborators, and their direct reports. To me, now this is getting into, hey, your job here is to produce these widgets, okay? And that's what we're going to need you to do. And why don't you just go ahead and keep up with that? I don't feel like we need a 360-degree struggle session on why you can't produce widgets. I mean, that's just me. And I mean, I certainly don't want to bring in more people, more widget professionals to discuss, a feedback loop of why you're not producing or why you are producing or anything. I just don't feel like, I don't think this would be in the best interest of anyone's time. It would be employee theft of work time. Is that vicious and wrong? You tell me. Put it in the comments. Leave it in the chat. We'll go from there. To nurture a company's culture that transcends zip codes and time zones, business leaders should also ensure workers feel linked to a larger purpose. For example, a medical device company invites customers to annual meetings to provide testimonies about how a technology saved or improved the patient's life. Employees who have no day-to-day contact with clients would otherwise never hear these stories and feel bonded by the company's mission. I mean, I agree with linking everything to a larger purpose. Company mottos, mission statements, things of this nature, I feel like they've been overdone. This is just me. Like if you're the owner of a canned corn company, okay, you literally produce canned corn, okay, like your mission statement should be, hey, we produce canned corn. Now, we could do it different ways. We provide the cheapest canned corn. We provide the most exclusive canned corn. But like, we don't need to talk about anything other than like, hey, our mission statement is we produce canned corn. Sometimes I feel like we make things a little too difficult. Like, if there's a software manager like that takes care of all the technological advances in producing canned corn, while they might not be actively picking the corn or even working with the cans, they're still contributing. Their job should still be related to producing canned corn. I mean, it seems rather straightforward there. Anyway, myth number 2. What do we got? 5 myths? This might take us out of the whole thing. Okay, it says myth number 2, because they aren't going into the office, remote employees aren't as concerned about changes at work. No commute, no casual wear confined to Fridays, no worries about a sack lunch being stolen from the office. Who would do such a thing? Seriously, that's terrible. Work from home workers should be super chill right now, right? When it comes to company changes, fully remote employees are in fact less excited and less confident than their on-site colleagues. They're also the most uneasy by a margin of 11 points. When things are changing at your organization, how do you most often feel? It says excited, confident, uneasy. To help workers cope with the dynamic nature of business, whether it's a new vacation policy, a pivot in strategy, or a change in leadership, you've got to increase employee engagement and communication now and be extra cognizant of those who never get the news face to face. A powerful way to do that is to show emotion. More than purpose or perks, employees value heartfelt moments of connection that meet their needs as social beings. Wait a minute. Let's figure this out again. It says a powerful way to do that is to show emotion. More than purpose or perks, employees value heartfelt moments of connection that meets their needs as social beings. This is especially true for personal milestones, which shouldn't be passed over in a hybrid environment. So like you get your gold watch and chain, I don't know. Maybe it's not marked by a cake and funny hats in the break room. We're going to have a story about that. There's a story. There's a lawsuit that happened about that. In fact, I should look it up and put it in the thing because I'm going to forget it. Let me just real quick get right here. Got it. I got it. Putting it in the old file because I just remembered it. I had forgotten about it, and that's why I wanted to make sure I put it here now. So let's continue. I'm sorry. Maybe it's not marked by cake and funny hats in the break room. We did this. But employees' birthdays, anniversaries, marriages, babies, and new homes should still be commemorated even virtually. These are the regular cadence moments the teams rely upon as the antidote to the anxiety of change. So as a real estate agent, like, so if my buyer goes into work and says, I bought a home, I think right now in the workplace, people would be like, why? Like, it's the worst market ever. But if you went and you said, I sold my home, people would be like, you're so smart. Man, the market is just awesome for sellers, and you did it. Congratulations. Now that's just odd, isn't it? It's kind of weird. Like, some people at work won't tell you that they bought a house or they sold a house because they don't want to offend people like me who live and die by selling people's houses. We don't celebrate, should we be happy someone's getting married? Yes. We shouldn't celebrate someone getting a divorce. That's sad, right? Unless they're happy about it. See, when you start getting into all these things, it's like, it gets a little dicey. Myth number 3, when it comes to praise from their managers, employees who are not in person full-time fall through the cracks. Though losing the 5-day commute and working occasionally in sweats are admittedly perks, hybrid schedules can sometimes seem like the worst of both worlds. Not enough in-person camaraderie of office life, and an abundance of annoyances from back-to-back video meetings. But that data shows that that's not necessarily the case. Hybrid workers report feeling more appreciated than on-site or fully remote employees, though they are teetering on the verge of burnout. Hybrid workers feel the most appreciated, but also the most overworked. For leaders, this means 2 things. By being seen on screen and in person, hybrid workers have the multiple opportunities to receive praise, which is critically important to employees' overall job satisfaction. It's like good dog. See, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't come across very well. Oh, we're so happy that you cleaned the employee restroom so well, Pepe. It's like, Those who have been thanked in the past month are half as likely to look for a new job, more than twice as likely to feel respected at work, and more than 3 times as likely to see a future at a company. Well, that kind of goes along with, how do you feel like you stand in your employment at any given moment? If your boss is telling you, hey, you did a good job there, thank you for coming to work this week, now you kind of feel like you know what you're doing. If you don't hear anything, it starts to think like, maybe I'm not doing the right stuff. And maybe you aren't. It also emphasizes the importance of fostering connection for hybrid employees. 59% of recently surveyed workers said that less human connection is the reason they're feeling anxious, isolated, and unmotivated. So encourage your team to launch or join an ERG, employee resource group, even if it's just a Slack channel devoted to interests unrelated to work, cats, music, and slow cooker recipes. I don't know. See, like you're at a job to do a job. At some point. And then the other thing is this, like, let's say that people are growing up in this generation Do you really think that the kids that are on their phones 24 hours a day feel connected like to people that aren't on their phone? I mean, like, let's just say like Instagram, okay? Because we know that young kids don't use Facebook. So let's just say like a person that uses Instagram, if you're like, if you're friends with someone on Instagram at work, you might feel closer to that person over Instagram than you do when you see them in person. That's not a work problem. That's a societal problem, if it's even a problem. ERGs, employment resource groups that meet IRL or online in real life. Boy, this is kind of sad. Create a network of, in the writing that we keep using all this jargon that's really create a network of shared experiences, characteristics, or goals, and can help form authentic relationships among employees up and down the organization because they're created by and for your own people. Employee resource groups improve company culture in an organic way. You can also use a tool like Mood Tracker to quickly take your employees' pulse and get to the heart of organizational issues around connection and capacity. That way, your workers are heard regardless of where they're zooming in from, and company leaders can see trend lines and take broad actions as opposed to every manager solving for burnout or loneliness alone. Number 4 myth, the pressure of work from home are especially acute for anyone with children. Okay. It's become cliche, the chatty toddler walking through her mom's high-stakes video call presentation. However, what parents are telling us is that work from home is exactly what they want. In fact, fully remote parents are significantly less stressed and less overworked compared not just to their parenting peers who are on-site and hybrid, but also compared to on-site and hybrid non-parents. It says parents who work fully remote have notably less stress and feel less overworked. Okay. That means that the flexibility of work for home clearly offers huge benefits, especially for caregivers. However, the opposite was true for parents who split the difference between on-site and fully remote. I don't like the hybrid concept. I think that's stupid. These hybrid workers reported feeling the most overworked and stressed. Yeah, because you're spending like 3 days a week just commuting to work. That takes up time. So managers who strive to adapt to their employees' needs will be remembered and rewarded for their generosity, whether helping a direct report, preparing for taking maternity or paternity leave, or having candid private conversations about scheduling concerns. That is, as long as they give the same ear and empathy to an employee with school-age kids as to one with elder care responsibilities or a tricky work-from-home roommate situation. Remember, if you're truly imagining for results, outcomes over hours is your mantra. I don't know about that. And I agree. Oh, excuse me. For the mother that's, the daughter that's taking care of a mother that's old. Yeah. And that's to me the same as taking care of children. Just checking to see if anyone jumped in on our chat. I want to check something real quick. Okay. All right. I got to check something else. I'll do that later. Sorry. Number 5 myth. After participating in the Great Resignation, workers hired during the past 2 years are looking to stay put at their new companies. I don't think that's true. That is, who would even think that? Oh, man. Okay. So it says cover letters, video interviews, corporate ghosting, switching jobs is no picnic, especially during a pandemic. But that doesn't mean your recent hires won't leave for greener pastures. Absolutely. And they should. And as a good manager, you should be trying to help people gain the skills, sharpen their skills so that you literally can't afford them and they have to go elsewhere and they're getting paid. Like that would be the ultimate way to treat people, I would think. Half of workers hired during the pandemic say they plan on looking for a new job within the next 12 months, compared to just a third of those hired before COVID, and 69% are willing to return to a previous employer, 13% more than more tenured workers. What's one of the easiest solutions to reduce this type of costly turnover? A thank you. A manager expressing gratitude is one of the best ways for employees to feel connected to a company culture. if it's done right, specific, consistent, merit-driven, unexpected, frequent, and able to be seen by others. So you're supposed to praise someone in front of others so they see it. In terms of timing, recognition should come as close to the event as aspiring as possible when the memory of a moment's action and results are fresh, says Eric Mosley and Derek Irvine, authors of Making Work Human. Also, it's the same as like if a dog does something wrong and you stop the dog at that moment from doing it, they'll learn. But if you wait like 10 minutes and you're like, hey, you shouldn't have done that 10 minutes ago, they're like, I'm a dog. I don't really know why you're yelling at me. I'm not saying you should treat your employees like dogs. I'm just saying the way this writing comes across, the patronization feels like similar to taking care of an animal when people aren't animals. So anyway, that's it. I thought it was interesting. I don't think some of those myths are true. I mean, I don't think they were even myths. I think it kind of got made up. What do you think? You should put it in the chat. You should put it in the comment section. Do whatever you'd like to do. I'm going to move on to the next article. I'm going to do this. I'm going to close this this ad. It says 5 negative behaviors you should ditch if you want to be a great leader. So I want to be a great leader. I think if you're watching this, you want to be a great leader. So let's see what it says. I really don't know. It says, being in charge of people can be relatively straightforward. In the most general sense, all you have to do is tell others how to complete a task and make sure they do that within the allotted time frame. Though this is the bare minimum of being a successful boss, it doesn't necessarily make you a good one. For that, you need to become a leader. Leaders are much more than just a person in charge. Rather, they are the people that support employees, challenge them to be their best, provide mentorship, and encourage better behaviors. Making these connections with employees doesn't necessarily happen overnight, but neither does becoming a great leader that many people strive to work for. If your goal is to become a strong leader within your organization, there are some skills you must develop. There are also some habits and behaviors that you have to let go of. Doing so will open you up to greater positive growth and development in your leadership as skills as a whole. All right, well, let's go with this. Micromanaging. Everyone has a boss at one point or another that was a bit of a micromanager. I've seen it. It's terrible. Don't be a micromanager. They were constantly swooping in to tell you exactly how to complete a task. Oftentimes, creative new ideas were shut down, and if you deviated from the sideboards of your role, you were quickly put back into your place. Though micromanagers consistently have a bad rap in the workforce, there's still a large number of them out there in our workspaces. As you work toward becoming a strong leader, take a hard look at your management style. Are you giving employees enough breathing room? Do you trust them with the tasks that they're hired to complete? If you might be a micromanager, try to take a step back and give your employees time to do things their way. It might not be perfect, but it doesn't always have to be. So fascinating to me because I think about this the way I would do things, and I would not be a micromanager unless somebody wasn't getting the job done. And then I would start to micromanage because I need to get the job done. If I couldn't get the job done after micromanaging and after giving them the space that they need, I'd have to let that person go. I don't want to do that. Makes me sad. Non-constructive criticism. As a leader, you will quickly realize that all your employees have different skill levels and abilities. Some will be super quick at producing results, but they may not be thorough, while others take forever to complete a project but is beyond perfect. As a manager, it's your job to help people improve from wherever they are on the performance spectrum. Helping people improve at their job is a fine balance of encouragement and constructive criticism. One of the biggest struggles non-leaders have is actually providing constructive criticism rather than critiquing their work. Working to stop criticisms involves active change, such as thinking about the ways you frame things, being realistic about the changes you'd like to see, and depersonalizing reactions. Well, okay. I don't know why you would want to criticize people non-constructively. Doesn't make any sense. Avoiding conflict. Although much of our upbringing and training in the professional world, we were taught to avoid conflict. Although no one wants to be the person to force a controversial topic into discussion or start arguments for no reason, there's a time and place for conflict in the workplace. Fear of engaging in this conflict when it arises can cause problems. such as a breakdown in communication, a loss of productivity, and the loss of the highest quality employees. A strong leader isn't a person that goes out of their way to cause conflict, but they are a person that isn't afraid to address it when it comes up. Addressing conflicts involves things. Now, this is totally different than what we were just reading about being a sensitive leader. Addressing conflict involves things such as listening to make sure you're understanding the source of the conflict and setting expectations on how it can be worked around. Leaders strive to keep personalities out of the discussion and work towards common goals. Microaggressions. At some point in your career, you've probably also dealt with microaggressions, whether or not you realize it. Microaggressions are subtle behaviors that negatively impact someone, but are so small that they get ignored or brushed off. We can't often quite put our finger on what is exactly wrong because they're not necessarily outright or malicious, and may even be unconscious behavior by the perpetrator. Often they're directed at marginalized groups. Oh my God. It says good leaders must strive to be cognizant of and avoid microaggressions at all costs. If an employee is experiencing a microaggression, encourage conversations that can help resolve it, and don't be afraid to lead the discussions if necessary. Sometimes all it takes is making someone aware of the offense and requesting an apology and change in behavior. So you're supposed to, on a microaggression, call it out. I think that's what they're saying. I don't know. Let's continue. Gender bias. Finally, good leaders should always evaluate the diversity of the workplace and strive for improvement. I think that's more of an HR job. Plenty of studies indicate that diversity is a huge benefit to workplaces, which includes racial, gender, age, and experience diversities. Making sure, now, by the way, plenty of studies indicate that diversity is a huge benefit to workplaces. Okay. Like, what would be the benefit of having studies that didn't? Making sure to address gender diversity is a good place to start, as numerous companies, especially within certain industries, experience a chronic gender bias. That's right. When you work for a nonprofit organization, you might be in a situation where many of the workers are women and there are very few men. And so they need to hire more men. You see what I did there? Being a good leader is a process that doesn't happen overnight. As you work to become a stronger leader, take time to perfect the things that you should be doing and work towards dropping habits you shouldn't be continuing. As you identify aspects to work on and improve, keep track about how far you've come. You're well on your way. I didn't find this to be a very good article at all. You should ditch micromanaging, non-constructive criticism, avoiding conflict, microaggressions, and gender bias. And that makes you a better manager. I disagree. All right, well, let me get back to the main screen. Bam. I don't know. What do you think? What did you learn tonight? Anything? I don't know either. I don't agree with a lot of the writing that's out there. That's why I kind of like to read it and share it with you, because it's like, you know, let's figure this out together. All right, well, we're done. I'm heading out. I'm gonna leave. You're gonna leave. If you're watching this in the future, it's April 19th of 2022. If you enjoyed any of the content, if you enjoyed any of my set in the background, anything, if you could just please subscribe. We've got a very small channel. I'd like to get to 100 subscribers just this year. That would be just fascinating. Would love to see it, but I don't know if I will. So, help me out. Hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. And you may not even ever watch a video of mine again, but if you subscribe, that just helps me. I get my 1,000 subscribers, then I get monetized. And then I don't feel like I'm wasting a bunch of time every night when I bring these stories to you. With that, I'm going to head on out. Thank you for watching. I should see you tomorrow, but who knows? Who knows what the day holds? But thank you for being here tonight, and I will catch you down the road.